understanding it and dealing with it. That will be so clear from, if I give you a few examples, we know that many times he would give various answers for the same question. Depending on the situation, on the person who is asking the question, his needs, and the circumstances at large. One person would come and say, Rasulullah, tell me about the best thing to do in Islam. One time he would say the best thing is this. A different time he would say the best thing is that, as-salah ala waqtiha, to pray in time. For somebody else, he will give a different answer. It does not mean that في اضطراب واختلال, it's a discrepancy or it's different. It's not different. It depends on the reality of the person and what he needs. And what the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, knows from his reality, from the circumstances of that person. He would sometimes give an answer for the same question that's completely opposite and different. We know the famous story of the person who came, a sheikh or a shab, a young person who came and asked him, Ya Rasulullah, can I kiss my wife while fasting? And he said, no, you can't. In the same session, an old person came and asked Ya Rasulullah the same exact question. And he said, yes. فَنَظَرْنَا إِلَى بَعْضِنَا الصَّحَابَةِ, they said, we looked at each other. How does this make sense? And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam قَدْ عَلِمْتُ نَظَرَكُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ. I see your point, I see that you're looking at each other. The thing is, what's fit for the young person is not necessarily الشباب لو سمحت, boys, الأولاد. What's fit for that person is not necessarily going to be fit for that person. He knew that the shab would not be able to control himself, and it's not going to stop there. He gave him the answer that deals with his situation. The old person, most likely it's going to be a kiss of love or showing of gratitude. It's not going to take him most of the time, or most likely it's not going to take him any further. It comes in many situations, awsini. In one situation, Mu'adh radiallahu anhu will ask him, Ya Rasulullah, give me an advice. And later on, he will ask him, Ya Rasulullah, give me an advice. And he will give him two different advices based on the situation. The first situation, he will give him a generic advice that's good for him at this time. The second situation is he was going to Al-Yemen, being the leader, sending him to be the leader or the governor of Al-Yemen, and he will give him a situation that will work for that. Usika bil qalil. Do not, just al-ikhlas. He basically give him the advice to be sincere in what he is doing and to be content and rida bil qalil. And you may go and try to find out about the advice yourself. An old lady would ask him, Ya Rasulullah, tell me something that I can do, and he will teach her a dua. Obviously, that's what she can do from a'mal al-bir. She can't do much of the actions because this is an old lady. Versus somebody who is younger. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam will most likely, as it happens in many situations, will give him the best action is al-jihad fi sabilillah and this and that, as in Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam will give the advice. So the point that I'm making is, and Nabi alayhi wasallam, he understands the situation. He understands the person that's talking to him and where he is coming from. So much so that somebody came, الرجل الأعرابي الذي جاء وبال في المسجد, the person who came and he urinated in the masjid. He literally went to one side of the masjid and he urinated in there. He is used to that, where he is coming from. He lives in the desert. They don't have designated bathrooms. They just take one side and urinate it in the sand. It's not gonna, it will disappear. فهم نبي الصحابة, and the Sahaba were so mad, how could you do that in the masjid? But the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he does not think of that as something small, no. But he understands the waqi', he understands the reality that this person does not really mean to break and violate the sacredness of the masjid. لا يعني هذا الرجل يعني مثلا كسر قدسية المسجد. He doesn't mean that. He does not mean it. That's where he coming from. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam قال لا تزرموه, do not even cut him off, it might hurt him. And then he told him these places are for salah and for ibadatullah, it's not for that. And he told the Sahaba how to fix that situation. And the situation ends as we know that this person was making the dua, Allahumma, oh Allah, give me and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam your mercy, or inna fi rahmatik, but not those guys. like he ended up loving Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how he was lenient with him. That's how it is. A young person would come and ask Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam to give him a concession, rukhsah, to make zina, to have sexual relationship with girls. Ya Rasulullah, he said that. And then the hadith is being narrated, so obviously it was done in front of people, or at least somebody else. But the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam understand that this person is not, it's not out of khala'a, that he is a loose person, he does not care for the deen, he does not respect Islam. No. Actually, it's the opposite, because he is coming to ask. He is coming to Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to ask, Ya Rasulullah, I know it's haram, but I can't wait, I have the desire, give me the permission. So what does this tell you in the first place? That he cares about the deen, but there is a desire that's kind of the hormones are working really bad with him. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would handle that he's understanding the reality, and he will convince him at the end, alayhi salatu wasalam. So sometimes, actually, we need to understand our reality, our situation. Us, as many of us immigrants living here, we need to understand the society, the reality, and deal with it. You understanding the reality, you don't have to accept everything. You don't have to take everything that's going outside, but you have to understand it, and you have to be able to deal with it. You don't have to accept that this boy coming and wants to give rukhsah for a zina. You don't have to accept it, but you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it in the best way, and that's what the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did. We're dealing with our kids. They are coming from a different reality, like they see the world from a different perspective. It's easy for me to say that, but when we implement it, it needs a lot of... But we really need to understand what he means, where they're coming from. And hopefully they can also understand. Youth, when they grow up a little bit and they have the power, they need to understand where their parents are coming from, where mom is coming from when she is very precautious, when she's advising him. He needs to understand where she's coming. Let's understand the reality of what's going on around us and deal with it likewise, because it's very, very, very important. This Islam, this deen came to regulate life, to give us guidelines for life. So we need to understand life. We need to understand it, so we'll be able to deal with every single situation in the right measurements. جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد.